I recently was scrolling TikTok and found someone talking about soup Sundays, and I absolutely fell in love with the concept. Basically, every Sunday you try a new soup recipe throughout the winter time. And because I live in New England, it's very chilly. We actually just got a snowstorm yesterday, which is beautiful. It dropped about 2 to 3 inches of snow, so it wasn't a ton, which was great. It's my kind of storm. It's not something you really have to plow. The driveways are pretty clear all on their own, but it's just enough to cover the ground to make it look beautiful and white and magical. So it feels very cozy this weekend. So it's the perfect weekend to start this little tradition that I'm gonna be doing. And I'm gonna be doing a new soup recipe today to me. I have cooked a few things out of this book before. It is the, I almost called it The Lost Kitchen. It is The Big Heart Little Stove by Erin French, who owns The Lost Kitchen. If you've watched her television show, she has a show on Magnolia Network. She does a beautiful restaurant in Maine. She has curated this amazing experience, and she always incorporates a soup, for the most part, in her menus. And so when I thought soup, I immediately went to her and was not disappointed. I found a carrot and coriander soup that I'll be making tonight. I also already made a loaf of sourdough, but I thought it would be fun to just spend a little cozy Sunday together. And I also have a project I want to share with you. We're going to be making homemade fire starters. We definitely use our fireplace in the winter time. It definitely is a nice little moment when it's freezing cold. It's been very cold here, actually. It's been almost in the teens to single-digit temperatures. And although I'm trying to embrace the season, I have been doing some of my garden prep. So I have been going through all of my cool flowers, getting my seed starting stuff together. So I'm going to share with you some of my early strategies. There are seeds I can sow indoors in January. I'm going to share some of my favorite books and resources with you because it's not too late if you want to jump on the bandwagon of getting your spring garden started. So we're covering all of my favorite topics today. We are doing some cooking, some gardening, and some crafting, and I'm just excited that you're here. I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get to the soup because I like to have it on the stove, cooking away as much as I can throughout the day. I absolutely love leaving things on the stove on a Sunday that can just fill the house with an aroma of home-cooked food. One of my favorite things to do in January is planting my spring garden. And this past year in 2024, I did quite a bit of seed starting, but I started summer annuals. So essentially they were seeds that you start and plant out in May. So I am a zone 6B here in Massachusetts. My zone just got bumped up. Actually, I was a 5, I'm a 6B now, which is great because it opens up a whole world of other plants, and I'm excited to try some new things. But last year I tried about 12 different varieties of seeds, and I was very happy with them. But because they were more of your typical summer annual plant, I really didn't have flowers until August, September. I've always planted dahlias. I have a soft spot for dahlias, and my favorite place to get them is actually a local place. I will leave them linked down below, but they're called the Dahlia Shed. The owner, Amy, is amazing. I've actually gone there multiple times as a customer. She's located in Rhode Island, and her farm is beautiful. Her flower stand is beautiful. So I absolutely love that, but I also love to buy dahlia tubers from her. So she just had a big sale on January 1st. When she opens her store, a lot of the times they sell out, but you may be able to get some of her tubers still. So I'll leave all her information down below if you are in the market for dahlias. I have had the best success with hers. I've ordered from Swan Island. I've ordered from a few of the local ones around me, and hers always perform the best. And I have been able to overwinter them, and I have them all stored in my garage right now, and I actually just checked on them and they're doing perfect. So dahlias for sure. but I also had all of my annuals growing at the same time. So I really missed a window in early spring and that May, June time period where all I really had were my peonies. I have 3 peony plants and 2 of which are very new. So last year I only got 1 or 2 blooms on them. This year I'm hoping to have a plethora more, so I can't wait to share that with you. That will be in June, but basically I had just peonies, and as we all know, peonies are a very short flower, so it was about 2 weeks maximum that I had them. So my big goal this year in 2025 is to actually grow some flowers that I can start in January right now and plant out in March. So I'm learning a lot about these hardy annuals, and there's a lot of beautiful flowers that I actually tried to grow last year in the typical method, planting out in May, and of course they didn't grow because they're cool flowers. So the beautiful thing about gardening is no matter how long you do it, you are always learning. So my love of gardening has just exploded over the years, and I have a new journal. I'm keeping so many notes, but I wanted to share some of my resources with you guys because, like I said, gardening is one of those things where you're just constantly learning no matter how long you've done it for. So a lot of people know Erin from Florette. I have all 3 of her books. I have purchased a ton of her seeds. I did a lot of her seeds last year. I grew her dahlias from seed. Her celosia did really well for me. And then I've tried to grow a couple other things. I didn't order any seeds from her this year, but I utilized her resources for growing flowers. Also, her website has a ton of free information. So I love her books. I just couldn't share resources without talking about Erin and Florette. A new book that came out last year though, and I love, is this French Blooms book. I love anything Parisian, anything French or European really. And this is actually a book from someone who's local to me. She owns a flower shop in Andover. And this book is amazing because she does talk you through gardening and flowers, but it's more of a flower arranging book. So it's not really a gardening book. However, I kind of pick what I like to use based on flower arrangements I'd like to make. So this is sort of the backwards version of that. You get to go through and see how she really pulls together some beautifully elegant flower arrangements and then back it up into what you want to grow in your garden. And she tends to grow a lot more perennials than annuals. Okay, our soup was boiling over. Just fixed that. But she tends to grow a lot more perennials, which I also am trying to do a little bit more of. I do love seed starting and the process of annual flowers, and I love that. However, it's a lot of work, and I actually own my own business. I make soaps and candles, and I have 2 brands actually. So that in the summertime takes a lot of my effort, not only to make the products, but I do a lot of markets and things like that. So I do love this if you are trying to find some more perennials that are also beautiful in flower arrangements. This year though, I wanted to share with you what I'm growing. I have found YouTube to be a great resource, and what I love is finding a YouTuber that is in my zone. That is how I've learned the best. I can watch what they're doing, hear their schedule. That is the biggest thing for me. So for me, that is Danielle at North Lawn Flower Farm. Her channel is absolutely amazing, and she's in the same zone as me. So I've really been finding it helpful to kind of mirror what she's doing as I'm learning different things. But basically, I'm gonna walk you through some of the seeds that I'm gonna grow this year that are new to me in this whole cool flower world. So the first thing is poppies. I'm gonna grow Icelandic poppies, which I've heard are very difficult, but they look so beautiful. So I have a few different varieties here. I did buy some from Johnny's, and I did buy a few from Eden Brothers. I've never tried their seeds before. So I trust Johnny's. Johnny's seeds have been the best. I know a lot of professional growers use them as well. But Johnny's seeds and then some Eden Brothers, but I did get 5 different varieties of poppies. I kind of went a little crazy. So we'll see how that goes. It's a little bit more tricky. I also have some feverfew, which I tried growing last year, but again, did that in the wrong time period. So hopefully this year I'll be able to get a little bit more of an established plant. They did grow, they just didn't grow very tall. I'm gonna do some foxgloves, some snapdragons, a little bit more status. I did have success with the status, and actually you can see some here. I dried a lot of it. So that's what you see at the top right here, and right here as well. This is all status, and I love it as a dried flower. Love, love. And I wanna make sure I have more dried flowers next year this is pretty much my haul that I have from what I did. I don't think it's enough for a wreath. I would love to make some wreaths in the fall. So the status is a cool flower, so I'm gonna actually do that a little bit earlier than I did last year. I have a little bit more scabiosa seed. I did have success with the scabiosa. It's a perennial here, so I can't wait to see it come back because the flower is just stunning. But I have a little bit more of that. And then I do have some more. Let me see here. Oh, lupin. So I did grow lupin last year, but it never actually bloomed because, again, bad timing. So I'm gonna say that probably way too many times in this video. I did get a few more seeds just in case the ones that I grew last year don't actually come back. I think they might. I did them in containers, but I'm gonna grow a little bit more lupin just because I discovered this flower on a trip up to Maine, and I think it was 2 years ago. We were driving up to Maine where we love to vacation, and the entire sides of the highways were just covered in lupin. This is definitely an invasive flower, so you have to be a little bit careful, but I love it because it reminds me of Maine. So if I can have a little taste of Maine here in Massachusetts, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna try a little bit of fragrance stock. I just got these packets from my local garden center just to try because they're a little bit more affordable. And then I am starting an edible flower garden this year as well. Last year I grew a lot of different varieties of viola, and they were super cute in like drinks and baked goods, and I just want to like expand on that. I love cooking, I love baking, and I love flowers, and I absolutely love the idea of edible flowers in our food. So I did get a few packets from the garden center of pansies and violas, but I also ordered some from Johnny's yesterday, so I don't have them to show you, but I got a few more varieties of the pansy, and then I also got some marigold, and I found some other really unique things like nasturtium and this Mexican mint magic, I think is what it's called. So I'll be growing that as well. And then as far as other cool flowers, I am gonna grow some bachelor's button. I've never grown that before. I've heard it's pretty easy, but that will be a part of my cool flower journey. And then nigella. Nigella I grew again last year, like a bad gardener, but this is why it's so great to try it, because you learn. Now I know the flowers that failed last year, that I wasted resources and time, but now I've learned. So I'm not gonna make those mistakes again. The other few things I have in the freezer right now under a cold stratification. So there's some seeds that I'm about to start this week that needed to be in the freezer for about 2 weeks, and that would be Orlea and Larkspur and Blue Plurum. So those are the 3 things that I'm gonna start early on. The rest of these I'm gonna sort of spread out throughout the weeks, but my goal is to get all of these into my seed trays and started in January and February so I can plant them out towards the end of March. My last frost date, it's been very weird here in New England. Our winters have been strange. So it's typically May 1st to the 10th, but I'm gonna use May 1st because it's been a little bit more mild. Of course, I'm gonna say that, right? And New England's gonna hear me and say, no, Caitlin, we're gonna give you snow in May because that's just the way New England works. But I'm gonna go with May 1st as my first official last frost date as far as growing all of these things, just because I want to have flowers as soon as possible, and I feel pretty confident based on the past few years that that's gonna be okay. My big goal is to just live in a world filled with flowers. So I hope you guys enjoyed some of these resources, and now I think we're gonna get to making our fire starters. I'm very excited about this. I found a little bit of inspiration, and we're gonna pull together some dried flowers, some foraged goods, and we're gonna make our little fire starters together. When I was a kid, I remember making fire starters with my parents with the really big pine cones, and I just remember them being practical, but not that pretty. And so I am really excited to share a little project with you guys of making our own homemade fire starters, but with a little bit more of a floral aesthetic twist. So really all you need for this project is little silicone liners. If you don't want to get these, you could try them in a muffin tin. You need a little bit of wax. I am a candle maker, so I have a lot of wax in my studio. So I have a lot of different varieties. The one I'm using, I will link down below because it's available to anyone, even if you don't make candles, but it's a pillar wax. This is what I use for my wax melts. And the reason why I'm going to use this instead of a container wax is because it's a little bit thicker and it's going to be like a pillar candle, so it will stay in its shape. Versus if you use old wax from candles or even just container candle wax, it's a little bit of a softer wax, so it's gonna have a harder time staying in its shape. So I'm using a pillar candle wax here. Again, we'll link it down below for you guys. And then you do need some wicks. These wicks are ones that I purchased to test some of my candles that I'm not going to be using because this project doesn't really, it's not like a candle where you're trying to get fragrance out in the air. You're really just trying to start a fire. I'm just going to use ones that I'm not going to be using for my business. So again, I'll link them down below, but really any wick will be good. I just like to stick with a cotton wick if you are a little more cautious of toxins and things going into your air. Some candle wicks have like aluminum and different metals inside of them. This is just cotton. So I'm going to be using this. And then I don't know if you watched my previous video back in the holidays. I did a little DIY cottage crafts video and I made potpourri. In that video, I purchased a variety pack of dried florals just from Amazon, and I still have some of that left over. So in the beauty of trying to use all of my materials that I've purchased, I'm going to use some of this material today as well. And then same thing, I have leftover cinnamon sticks from that project. So really, it's minimal, and all you really need is an oven. I do have a wax melter. Like I said, I have all those materials. I'm not going to use them because most people don't have those. Hi, Lucy. I think Lucy wants to make some wax melts today. I'm going to do a method that doesn't use anything else but your oven, and then that way it's something that you could easily do as well. This is super simple, and I'm really, really excited about it. And let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to preheat your oven to 300 degrees, and then we're just going to get a baking sheet just so that we can put these out and lay them out together. So I'm going to go grab that, lay out my silicone liners on my baking sheet here. And I think I said this, I purchased these from Amazon. They're pretty affordable. They have a couple different colors, but I went with the sort of bluish winter theme here. I just love blue. It's my last name, my married last name too. So I feel like I gravitate towards it a lot. But anyway, how pretty is that? Already so much better than the fire starters I made when I was a kid. Okay, so then really, so simple. All you're gonna do is fill them about 3/4 of the way with your wax. You don't wanna fill them all the way to the top. We don't need that. But 3/4 of the way with your wax. I am gonna get a glove just to be clean since I use this for my business. If you're just making these at home for you and your friends and family, you don't need to wear a glove. I just take extra precautions when it comes to anything to do with my soap and candle business. So these little pellets are super easy. Okay, so this next part, you want to work a little quickly because as we've now taken the silicone molds out of the oven, the wax will start to solidify pretty quickly, especially since it's January here. And even though we have the heat on, it's just cooler. So these happen to be wicks with the little metal bottom on. I think that's actually really helpful so that it actually stays in place. And these are much longer than we need them to be. We'll cut them down eventually. But the other thing I didn't mention earlier, I grabbed some clothespins. I just have these from previous craft projects, and that's gonna help us keep our wick in place. It's not super imperative that the wick stays in the middle of the wax melt because these are going into the fireplace to essentially just burn our logs, which they'll do a good job even if they're a little wonky. But here we go. Okay. And we're just gonna go ahead and put all of our wicks. And I'm not clipping this. I'll get a little bit closer. I am not clipping it. I tried, and that makes it incredibly off balance. So I'm just resting it on the clothespin. Now comes the really fun part. We get to play around and add some of our little amendments to our fire starters. I love to play with the color here. I have a lot of things. I've got rosemary, some calendula, some lavender. I don't really expect that these are going to fragrance your fire. Your fire is going to be much stronger, but I think it'll look really pretty and cute. I also have some cinnamon sticks. So now is the trickier part. With the clothespins there, you kind of don't want to jostle the wicks too much, but like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're putting them in our fireplace. So I'm going to start putting some of these pieces together and just having some fun. You also could wait a little bit longer for the wax to come to a more solid temperature, but I like it being this warm because it's gonna take any of those additives in and it's gonna look really smooth on top. If we wait for the wax to sort of get harder and crust over, you're gonna have more cracks, and that's fine. It's still gonna work perfectly fine, but I'm all about the aesthetics. So I'm gonna try and hurry up a little bit and get all of these done so that they can come to room temperature and have nice smooth tops. So as you can see here, these ones on this end are starting to solidify a little bit quicker than the ones over here, but I'm going to stop because I don't want to break. Right here, I sort of broke one of the barriers. And it doesn't look terrible, but it did create a little bit of an air bubble. So I think we're good. Okay, so I worked really quickly. It probably took about maybe 5 to 7 minutes before they started to really solidify. So maybe if you wanted to do it in a half batch, instead of doing 12 at a time, you could do 6 and 6, because really it only took about 10 minutes in the oven down the wax completely. So we're gonna leave this. We're not gonna touch it. We're going to let everything come back down to room temperature and let our little wax melts get nice and hard before we unmold. Okay, I'm too excited. I cannot wait any longer. I have to break into one of these to see how it came out. So I guess I'll go, I was gonna say I'll go with the ugliest one, but they're all kind of pretty. So anyway, I can take off my clothespin. So let's do that. And that little trick isn't necessary, but it definitely does help. So the easiest way to unmold these is to actually pull at the sides to keep them in their shape. I love the little ridges that the silicone makes, and then pull it out by the little wick here, and we have ourselves a fire starter. I am gonna go ahead and get cleaned up here, and then I'm gonna unbox a package I just got. I ordered a few soup bowls from replacements.com of some vintage dishes. If you love thrifted things or vintage beautiful things, you're gonna understand why I ordered these. They are absolutely stunning, and I can't wait to start our little tradition with some new dishes. So we're gonna unbox that, and then we're gonna go ahead and finish the soup because it's almost dinner time, and my husband keeps asking, when are we gonna eat? So let's get all of that together. I'm obsessed with vintage plates, and it's becoming a problem, I will say. I typically like to thrift my plates. I have a great consignment store. I actually have a video that I posted back in the fall or holiday time period of some of my favorite local thrift and consignment stores. So I usually get all my dishes from places around me. However, I was on the hunt for some really beautiful soup dishes with a very large rim, and I really wanted some that matched my collection of Spode, but they were about $40 a piece on replacements.com. So I found another set, and I only got two because we are just a husband and wife couple right now, and we're going to be doing our little soup Sundays. So I didn't need an entire setting of new plates. I love them if you are trying to complete a set or you just want to look and learn about vintage plates. It's actually a really great website, and I've purchased quite a few things from them before. So let's unbox our soup plates and give them a wash so we can use them tonight. Also, everything comes super well packaged. So these are the bowls, and they are a Johnson Brother pattern. I think maybe from like the 80s or 90s, but yeah. Oh, and there's like a little coupon code for another order or for a future purchase, which is dangerous. Okay, I can't wait to show you guys the pattern. These are going to be perfect for Valentine's Day or spring, and I just love the shape of them. So, oh my gosh, they are so beautiful. So this is the pattern I got, and they are these sort of large rimmed soup bowls. I love the pattern so much, actually. I knew I would like it online. It is Johnson Brothers. Doesn't have a year on the back. But what I love about replacements.com is everything is checked by them. So they're not going to sell you something that is like imperfect or chipped or unusable. So you can really trust that what you're getting is practically like new. Hi, Lucy. Do you like Mommy's plate?